So there's this idea of universal reason in Stoicism, and God. The pantheistic God is everything, everything in the cosmos, and so we spoke about that quite a bit personally on how we all sort of share in the universal reason. We all have a piece of the universal reason within us, and that makes us, to put it in a Christian way, that makes us divine, right? We all have a piece of the divine within us, and I know, and we spoke about that a bit earlier. But after we spoke about that, and I really I'm interested in knowing is how beautiful that aspect of Stoicism is. That idea that we all sort of share in that divine cosmos, and not only share in it, we share in it, but there's a piece of it within us. And then just forgive me here, I got to get up this quote because it popped up after we spoke, and if I can get it here. So this is Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I stumbled upon this after we last spoke about universal reason. And I quote, "When I look up at the night sky and I know that, yes, we are part of this universe, we are in this universe, but perhaps more important than both of those facts is that the universe is in us. When I reflect on that fact, I look up. Many people feel small because they're small and the universe is big, but I feel big because my atoms came from those stars." And so that was just really beautiful to me. What do you think about that? Because I think that's such a beautiful aspect of Stoicism as a philosophy, the fact that we all share in that universal reason, in the cosmos, and that we all have a part to play.
Yeah, and I think the only difference between me and Neil deGrasse Tyson would be that not only did your atoms come from those stars, but the reason came from those stars or from that cosmos, and therein lies the fundamental difference. And people often ask me, well, what difference does it make, really, in my ethics? Why do I need to believe in providence or believe in God? What difference does it make? Well, one of the famous passages from Marcus Aurelius, Meditations 2.1, right? How does he open that? Remind yourself every day, and I'm going to, paraphrase here. Remind yourself every day that you're going to come into contact with, ungrateful, unbelieving, nasty, awful people, right? But he didn't stop there.
Right.
But remember, they share in what? They share in the same divine mind as you.
Yeah.
Not in the same atoms as you, the same divine mind as you. They share a piece of that same divine mind, and that is what connects us and makes me realize that these ungrateful, horrible, terrible people should not be viewed that way. They're just people who got it wrong. They don't know the difference between good and bad. They haven't been taught the difference between what is really good and really bad. But I have to remind myself as a practicing Stoic that I share a piece of the divine mind with them. And the idea of universal reason, I did an interview on my podcast with a professor, Tim Mulligan, who wrote a book, An Anthropocentric Purposivism, A Purpose in the Universe. Subtitle is An Anthropocentric Purposivism. He's a consequentialist ethicist, and he's a professor at, I think, University of Auckland. The whole point of the book is that without a purposeful cosmos, if the cosmos itself does not have a purpose, we have no grounding for ethical behavior. We have nothing upon which to hang ethics. It's basically might makes right. It's you have your opinion, I have my opinion. Let's meet on the battlefield and duke it out, or whoever has the most money gets to make the rules. But we end up in this place where the rules made by human beings become the end all. Man is the measure of all things. Whereas, and God, I always forget her name, the famous Greek character, female who challenges her king, the father. I'll think of it here in a minute. But it's the story where the king has condemned his own son because he spoke out against the king, and he's been killed, and his body is lying open, and the birds are picking it apart, and the daughter comes and wants to bury her brother, and the king says no, his body is to lie there and to be picked apart and eaten in public view. She sneaks out and buries her brother, and she gets caught in the act, and she's hauled before the king, and the king says, you've broken my law. To which the daughter responds, yes, but there's a law above your law. And when we don't have purpose in the cosmos, we lose the law above our law. And if it's nothing but man-made law, now we can argue about what the law above that law is, and that's what the Stoics would say, well, it's nature, and we need to observe how nature operates, how animals operate, how humans who are properly raised and moral, how they operate. And then we know what those laws are because they're a part of us. They are a piece of us. We are born with even though the Stoics said that we're born tabula rasa, basically meaning we don't have any ideas in our heads, we're still born with moral inclinations, that if we are not damaged in our upbringing, those moral inclinations will automatically develop into moral behavior. Unfortunately, we do get damaged, most of the time in our upbringing. So the idea of universal reason is that, and this is where, again, where Niels deGrasse Tyson would vehemently disagree with me, is that reason exists before human reason. He would say, no, there's no reason in the cosmos. The atoms, he's basically saying, thank God all those atoms came down and accidentally, combined in ways over long periods of time that produced me. He's not saying that there's any telos, any providence behind it, any purpose behind it, any order in it. And the Stoics, one of the great lines from, in fact, I used it in my blogcast on universal reason, from Pierre Hadot. And Pierre Hadot says that all of the Stoic doctrines, all of the Stoic dogmas come from the idea that human reason has to have a source, that it's not an accident, that it didn't happen by chance. And that source is universal reason. It is the concept of the divine that permeates the entire cosmos, every aspect of the cosmos, and gives us a piece of itself so that we can understand the cosmos, learn how to live with nature, in agreement with nature, so that we can lead virtuous lives and experience well-being.